Hi, today I'd like to talk to you about precast manufacturers and what we would see as being their BIM workflow. Um, we've broken this up into a number of different stages. The first one being receiving 2D drawings, maybe, or the other possibility on that is that you might be receiving a model that's created from publicly available external level of detail components and put together into a BIM model for you already. Okay. So either way, there is a trace or convert process. Now you can take in 2D drawings. If it's a steel frame, you can model the steel frame and then do a conversion process on it. You can take an RC frame, do a conversion process on it. You could even take in a competitor's precast model or drawings and convert that. And all of that stuff would be your external level of detail, and then you could bring that into your process or your internal BIM and then use that to swap out your low level of detail or your external level of detail and bring that into your internal level of detail components, such as the sensitive information that you wouldn't want to share with the world. Okay, you can use that then for optimizing your design or creating directly from that your fabrication drawings. But you can also bring that forward and bring that into your analysis model and bring it into your issue for approval stage, where you can go into your analysis model and use something like robot structural analysis, etc., to perform design analysis on that and your structural calculations that can lead back into the design model or your internal BIM model for your fabrication. Okay, exports from that model could also go back out to the engineers that are using BIM into an external level of detail BIM, so it would be essentially dumbed down and given back to them for coordination purposes, and lots of other things such as design drawings if you wanted to create from them, or even quantity takeoff estimation. Okay, so the bit I'd like to focus on today is the trace convert stage. So I want to talk to you about how we could take in 2D drawings or a 3D model and we could repurpose them for what you would like to do. Okay, so I'm going to start by taking in a 2D drawing. We're going to create a steel frame model from that 2D drawing. Then I'm going to convert that steel frame model into a precast model, and then that will be the model that you can then bring into your internal process. So this would be the trace convert stage at the beginning. Okay. So I'm going to switch back to Revit here, and this is the product that we're going to use for this. The first thing I'd like you to notice is it's a blank project in here. I've called a precast demo, and I've also got some preloaded families in here, which is fine. Most templates are going to have some preloaded families. So you would have a template like this that would have the families that you would need to bring in. The families are components, as they may be. So the first stage is we're going to receive drawings, and the first thing I'm going to say is I'm going to receive a CAD drawing. So I'm going to link that guy in. So I'm going to link in a CAD drawing, and I've received, let's say, this first floor.dwg. So this is a CAD drawing that I'm bringing in. I'm going to bring this guy in. Give him a second to come in. Okay, that guy's come in. So when you bring in 2D CAD, what's worth remembering is that this is actually 2D information. So if I look at him in 3D, he's not going to have much information. So if I look at what's come in with this guy, you can see that I've got some grids, and you can see that I've got some columns, and I've got some different beams here set up. Okay, so I'm just going to take this pretty simple shape, and I'm going to start to trace over this right now. The first thing I'm going to do is pin that guy in place so he doesn't move about on me. And then I'm going to go to my structural tab, and I'm going to put in a grid. Okay, and there's lots of really useful tools in Revit. This pick lines is one of them. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to look for my grid B. So I'm going to click on grid B, and this guy defaults to, his name is number 8. I'm simply going to rename him to grid B, turn on caps lock, grid B. And I'm going to come along and I'm going to put in grid B, C, D. They're all going to come in name. Just keep clicking on those guys and put in my grids. Now the grids are the main thing in here, because it's going to be so easy for me to place columns and grids. Columns and beams once I have grids in place. This guy defaults at number J. can simply click on him, change him to number 1, and then I can use my pick lines again to go 2 and 3, and I'll come down and I'll put them in this side. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So once I've got my grids in, you can see that it's very, very easy to put them in. I'm just going to turn off my CAD import now, so imported categories, and I'm going to turn off my CAD so you can see that I've just got my grids in my model left behind. Okay. If I turn back on my AutoCAD, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place these columns. So I'm going to look at what kind of columns they are. They're UC 254 by 132 columns. Okay, so if I go into my structure and place columns, you'll notice that I have this guy universal column already loaded in for me here. If I take him, I can click to place these individually, click, 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 click. That's a lot of work, or not a huge amount of work, but I prefer to do things as efficiently as I can, so I'm going to use at grid intersection. So when I select that guy, it means that I can select all of those guys there and hit finish, and it actually puts in a column for me at every one of those intersections. So if I select that now, you can see it's an actual column. And again, there's lots of productivity tools in here. So if I can select that, I can say select instances, in entire project, all of those guys, and now I can start talking about where I'd like them to be. So I want it to be on the ground floor, maybe minus 1200. We'll give it a little bit of a foundation, and it's going to go all the way up to my roof and hit apply. Okay, so all I've done very, very quickly and very, very simply is brought in that CAD file, traced over those grids, and brought in my columns really, really, really quickly. Okay, if I go back to my ground floor, what I want to do now is I want to start thinking about, well, actually I'll go back to my 3D. I might put in some foundations here just to make it look well. So I'm going to turn off the CAD again. So if I turn off that CAD, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go to structure, and I can put in some rectangular footings. But again, you can see I've got this add columns button, which just allows me to put them in at every single column. When I hit finish, it's going to tell me those attached structural foundations will be moved to the bottom of the column. That's exactly what I want. Press modify, and very, very quickly I've got that created. If I go back to my first floor now, okay, and my first floor, you can see that I've got these beams here. I'd like to place them. They're 254 by 254 by 107s, and they're all these guys here. Again, lots of productivity tools. Structure, beam. I'm going to look for, I've got lots of precast stuff loaded in here, but I do have this universal column, 254, 254. Again, I'm going to bring him in, use my at grids, and everywhere that he finds an intersection, he's going to put them all in. Hit finish to that. Press modify, and we've actually gone and put beams in all of those locations, if you can see that. Okay. The intermediate beams here, these are 152s by 89s by 16 UBs. Again, I'm not going to have to place every one of those individually. What Rev can do is we can do a structural beam system very, very quickly. Structural beam system, make sure we're using the correct beam over here, which we are. Fixed number, and then I just simply pick on the direction that I want to place these guys. So the most we have to do is go around our model and place each individual one of these. So there, 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 and there. Oops, I did one backwards. It's fine. I can get rid of that in a second. But it's so quick and easy, especially when you've got a nice modular building like this, just to put it in really, really quickly, really, really easily. Okay, so converting 2D stuff to 3D stuff really isn't that big a deal, because it's very, very quick and easy to do. Now, there was one of these, I think it was this one, that I did wrong. So I can just delete that beam system. Oops, it wasn't that one. Again, if you make a mistake, which I regularly do, it's very, very quick and easy just to go back and change these guys. And yeah, I had 2 in there. I just had to go find them. But again, just put in those beam systems again. It's no big deal. puts them in, puts them in. Okay, if I go back to my 3D view, you can see what I've done. I've got my frame started now. So that's one floor, okay? And just to save a little bit of time, I'm going to say that that floor is repeated 3 times. So again, if I select that guy, I can copy him. And again, lovely little tools in Revit. I can paste a line to selected levels. So I've already got these second floor level and my roof level set up, and say OK. And that sets up this steel model like so. Okay, it just takes a second to paste. It's really doing quite a lot of work for me. When you think about it, I'm pasting up all those beams, all those beam systems up twice. Okay, and when I do that, that's my frame created. It's that quick, that easy. Okay, so now what do we do in here when we look at this guy? We've got our steel frame, so I've taken 2D drawings and I've created my steel frame from it. But what you really need to do is you need to bring this into your external level of detailed precast model, so you can bring it on to the next stage. So whether we get steel, whether we get RC frame, or whether we get a competitor's precast model, we can actually take this guy and repurpose it to our external level of detail and bring it on to the next stage. So that's what I'm going to show you. I've got this guy in here. What I'm simply going to do is I'm just going to get rid of that little CAD file now. So if I go to my first floor, I'm going to repurpose this guy now. So that CAD file is no longer really needed. So I'm going to go to my manage and manage links, and I'm just going to unload him there. Not deleting him, but I just don't want to see him anymore. Okay. So if I want to repurpose this model, again, what I want to do, well, if I'm going to put in, say, spine beams and edge beams, and we're going to have double T floor beams as well, I'm probably not going to need these beam systems. So again, if I just tab here, I can select it, use the productivity tools within Revit, select all instances in the entire project, which is selecting all 3 floors. I can delete those guys. Okay, probably actually a good idea to go to 3D, and again, if these floors are exactly the same, I'm going to just select the upper 2 floors and delete those. Okay, if I go to my first floor again, I can see the beams here. I'm probably not going to need these intermediate beams, so again, because there's nothing really unique about these, I do have to delete them one by one, but you know, it's, again, there's lots of productivity tools that will help you to do that in Revit. So I'm selecting all of these guys, holding control as I do it, and I'm using my control or my filter tab here, and I can say structural framing, and I can get rid of those guys. Just press delete and they're gone. Okay, so now simply by selecting any one of these elements here, what I can do is I can change that from being a universal column or beam here to any of these preloaded beams that I might have in here. So I could bring them into rectangular beams, but in this case I'm going to use my spine beam. So we've got this spine beam already set up in here. So that spine beam is going to be used in lots of places. So I'm going to select all of those guys, and I'm going to select all of these guys too. Again, use my filter, take my structural framing, and I'm going to change them quickly and easily all to be my spine beam. Typical. So all of those guys are in. Okay, if I was to take all these edge beams, in fact what I can do now is I can select on one of those, and I can right click and say select all instances in entire project, which gives me all of my edge beams around the sides. Then I can change them from this universal column, and I can change them, and I'm going to make them edge beam, that guy there, edge beam 660. Okay, and if we zoom in and we look at them, now you can see that these beams are notched, and they've got areas for our double T's to sit into. Now you'll notice these ones on the left are orientated the wrong direction. That's no problem. We get these little grip arrows that I can quickly and easily just change them from one side to the other. That depends on the direction in which they were drawing. So when I put them in, again at the start, they were inverted slightly. So I'm going to pop those across, change all of those ones. So it just takes a couple of seconds to get those done, but again, no big deal, really quick and easy. little flip controls. Now, so once those guys are in, you'll notice that the columns here are still steel. Okay, these columns are still steel. So what I want to do is I want to take these steel columns, again the same process, just right click and say select all instances and entire project. And what I want to do is I want to make those precast columns with corbels on. So I've got a number of these in here and they're all for different directions. So I'm going to put these all to say north-south columns. Okay, so I've changed everything to north-south precast columns with corbels on. So if I have a quick look in 3D, you can see that they're all starting to take shape in here now, but my corbels are in fact on the wrong place for different instances. North-south here works in that location, but probably not in these locations. So a little bit of work here that you'd have to go through is just to go in and actually make these guys what they are. So this one will have a corbel on its south and its east. So I'll just southeast, simply change it over there, and the corbels change. If I turn on wireframe, you might be able to see this happen a little bit better. This guy in here, he's simply going to be south, east, and west. So he's south, east, and west. He's got 3 corbels on him, and this guy is south, west, southwest. Okay, so it's generally the corners you will have to change. A couple of corners down here. This guy will be northeast. Northeast. Again, simply swap them out. This guy is north, east, and west. North, east, and west, and so is he. North, east, and west. And this guy here becomes north, south, east. North, south, east. Okay. So does he. North, south, east. I'm changing these one by one, just making sure that I'm getting them right. You'll notice these ones are north-south, so they're all wrong. If I can select a bunch of them at the same time, use my filter, I can take my structural columns and I can change them all very, very quickly. So this one is going to be east-west. Okay. Again, they're orientated north to east. The corbels know which face they're on, so we can easily schedule them if we need to. This one here will be southwest. This one here will be north southwest. So north southwest, and this one here will be, you guessed it, northwest. Okay, so very, very quickly, simply, we've got our frame in. Okay, now there is a little bit of a problem here. These guys, those edge beams don't need notches in them because if our double T's run that direction. So again, I can very quickly and easily swap these guys out. So again, I can swap those 4, those 2 there, these 2 here at the ends, and these 2 here. And again, I can change them to a different type of beam. So I've got edge beam B, which has, I don't know if you can see that there, it's got a different type of profile, and it's got no notches on them. Again, if these don't land in the right place, which they haven't for me, I can just quickly use my alignment tools, really, really accurate tools, just to start placing these guys about. Okay, so that's where I want him to land. Same down in this corner. That's where I want him to land. There, oops, pressed the wrong button. Multiple alignments in here. That's where I want him to land. Very, very quick and easy. There we go. Now, over here on the right hand side as well. This is the last one. So again, it's not totally free from work. There is things to do, but it's very quick and easy, and you can imagine how long this would take you in CAD. Okay, all those guys are in. If you zoom in, you'll notice that they're not really sitting on the corbels correctly. So there's about, I think it's about 240, 245 of a difference there. So again, if you see something wrong, select it, everything in the entire project, and you give this start extension 245, and this one end extension to do the end 245. Hit apply, and it fixes all those little problems for you. Okay, so we really do have our frame ready to receive our double T's. This is very, very easy to do. If we go back to my first floor, Again, we're just developing the first floor plan. These little guys here might just turn on hidden line again just to give you a quick look. And I'm going to go to my structure tab and I'm going to place another beam. So these floor beams basically are beams in Revit. And I'm going to take in and I'm going to put in this floor beam, this double T here. Okay, again, it knows what it is, it knows where it's designed to be, and you can see that it will snap into that corner very, very nicely, and it will snap there for me too. Okay, so I can take that double T, I can mirror him, I can move him, I can copy him. So once I've got those two guys placed, I'm simply going to use my array command, which is very like AutoCAD, and I'm going to go 3300, and then it's asked me how many times I would like to place them. So if I say 4, it's going to do 2 bays for me. But how many bays do I need? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that'll be 14 bays altogether. So if I click in here, I can now go ahead and change that. So if I zoom in a little bit, if I click on that 4, I can change that to 14. And sorry, typing it out wrong, put in 14, and it puts in 14 bays for me. Okay, very, very quick and simple. Lots of real productivity tools in here. If I go in and stick in another beam, so he's not the right orientation, simply pressing spacebar means that I can go and put him into the right place. Again, he'll snap to where I want him to be. Same down here, put him in, snap to where I want him to be, and use my array tool again. Select those two, hit array, go 3300, and then how many bays do I want to do? 1, 2, 3, 4, which means that I've got 8 double T's, put in 8, press modify. Very, very quick and simple to do. That is my first floor in, just like so. And again, if I'm presuming that this first floor is exactly the same as the other 2 floors, I can select those guys, use my copy to clipboard, paste the line to selected levels, second floor, roof, and say OK. Takes a moment for these guys to copy up. Again, it is doing quite a lot of work for you, but there we have our precast model created to our external level of detail as mentioned on this slide here. So external level of detail can now go forward to the internal BIM process.